What's up, fam? It's Sari here. We're ringing in week 10 of The Artist's Way. Our topic this week is recovering a sense of self-protection, which to me rings as self-preservation, really. So I'm going to give you guys a minute to get logged in. I'm going to adjust my camera here. I'm bringing my table from the patio outside to have my computer on so that we can live stream and I can see your comments. Hope everyone had a good week. There's a lot going on in the world today. While you guys get in here, I'm going to use my platform to talk about some things that are going on here in the world entirely. They've been going on for years and years, and now they're coming to a head. You may have seen in the news that a lot of our LGBTQ rights have been taken away and rolled back. We still have the BLM movement continuing, and we're needing to get traction with that. So a lot of stuff going on with human rights, and I highly encourage you guys to educate yourselves on what's going on. If you need a jumping off start place, just go to Black Lives Matter and start from there, start from scratch, and look for things in your community and what you can do and how you can support. And of course, educate yourself so that when things come up in the world that we're able to actually have educated conversations with people who don't understand. Some don't care, a lot just don't understand, and being able to have an actual conversation with people can show people that maybe some of the views that they have are really just ignorance. So encouraging you guys to do that. There's my platform here. I have several friends right now that I'm worried about. This stuff is directly affecting a lot of my friends. So I'm feeling kind of heavy-hearted today with everything going on, but really hopeful that this is really just a giant flashlight. Everybody's morality is showing right now. You can really truly see what people believe, and it's, yeah, I'm really grateful that I live in Seattle. So anyway, that being said, welcome to week 10. Ooh, I think we need to take a minute here. Welcome to week 10. We're going to do our checkup for last week. I'm sorry, I'm like a little upset about everything that's going on right now. So let's take a look and do our week 9. So last week, week 9 was recovering a sense of compassion, and we covered, creative U-turns and how we stop ourselves, and we're just going to continue on that today. Hi, Zandra, welcome. Okay, so these tasks that we did last week for our checkup for last week, did you read your morning pages? And from reading those, are you able to see the patterns that you have, both behaviorally and mentally, and as an extension of that behaviorally, to stop yourself from creating? I know that me personally, this is really helping me in the way that I know what my blockages are, and I know what my creative U-turns are, and I know what my patterns are. But this is just really, again, just shining that flashlight on, shining that floodlight really on the things that I'm doing that are blocking myself. And again, having that compassion for yourself in seeing all those things, and knowing is half the battle. And we're just going to continue this momentum and identify, pivot, re-identify, pivot, because behaviors And thought patterns are habits, so breaking a habit, you just have to continuously bring your focus back, refocus, start again, and just continue on from where you are and be accepting of that. Did you do your work visualizing your goal and identifying your true north? We were asked to name your goal. And my goal was more of a sense of well-being and a sense of how I want to live my life, rather than like an artistic goal, like I want to have 5,000 followers and I want to have this, that, and the other thing. Like, yes, my artistic goal is to live solely off of my art. However, I don't necessarily care where I get my money as long as I have my time and my behaviors and my schedule in line with creating my art. So I think a lot of us rely on finances for our happiness, and I think you're able to be happy now where you are, and it's really just comes down to habit of thought, and are you doing your best to do the things that you do enjoy, or are you in essence cock-blocking yourself from doing the things that you really want to do? And that's part of the powerful, that's what's really powerful about this book, is we're able to identify all that, and so we can just tear that down and just get back to what, like I asked myself, why is it that I'm doing this for my business? Why is it that I'm doing this? And I always come back to the joy of creating. So that's what we're getting at here, guys. And if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life, right? That's what they tell us. So, in your goal. Oh yeah, mine was, I wrote it down. I'm trying to figure out where I wrote it. Oh, I must have wrote it in my daily pages. Then we're asked to list out our creative goals for the year, which are going to be like our priorities, and then break them down into monthly and weekly and daily goals. And I'm honestly struggling with this because I have so many different creative interests. I have so many different creative outlets. So for me, I tend to pull too many things in, and then I get overwhelmed by the sheer amount of the things. So that's why I'm really trying to redirect back to, okay, well, what would make me happy? Why am I doing this? And then that is kind of your true north.
I'm on it. We can play a trivia game. I can give you a fun fact, or you can spin the wheel. What do you want to try?
Stop. My Google Home. I like it because I can turn my lights on and ask.
I couldn't verify your voice, so I can't answer queries using your home address. Give it another try, or check the voice match settings in the Google Home app.
Google, stop. Google loves to be involved in my live stream. Sandra says, cock blocking yourself from doing what you want. Word. What was number 3? Oh, priorities? I don't understand. Okay, I like that one. It motivated me to get some stuff started. Oh, number 3. Got you. Yeah, no, it's cool because once you're able to like list out, what I find helpful with like listing out the things that I desire to do or I have a vision to do is that you can list them all out and then you can like see them on the page, read them, and whichever one gets you excited, just like pick one and just go and do it, and you're one step closer. Sandra says, Google, oh, I need to move my camera closer because I can't read your comments. Oh. We're going off the rug, so shit. I'm gonna put a book under my table. Oh, it's too thick. This is like, okay, whatever, it's just gonna be crooked. So Google, stop chewing my metaphorical underpants, says Sandra. Oh my God. The goals one was number 3. Yeah. So yeah, it's really helpful to write your goals and stuff out. Gets you gets that juices kind of flowing. Like I have a list of our ideas, and for the most part, I just kind of add to the list, and it's the act of adding to it that kind of helps keep that stuff flowing. Now we have commercials on my music. Happy whatever day it is. It's Sunday. Stop. So then we get down to our tasks here for creative U-turns. And you can just name one of your creative U-turns. This is going to be applicable going forward in this week. We kind of touch on this again. And then for our check-ins, regarding your creative U-turns, have you allowed yourself a shift towards compassion, even if it's just in your daily pages? Like, have you been able to remind yourself to have compassion on yourself? Have you been able to remind yourself that beating up on yourself doesn't help anything? Yeah, I went through and read my morning pages. Yeah. And did you do it? And did you find it to be helpful? Because I find that when you're, again, like just as she says in here, like as when you go through, you're able to identify, wow, I keep saying this and I keep doing this. Wow, I keep saying that I want to do this and I keep not doing it because I'm doing this instead. Like it's enabling you to actually identify those excuses or, whatever it is that we prioritize over what it is we truly want. And then it keeps us in that holding pattern. Sandra says, I'm just going to quote, Sandra says, I don't think Julia was thinking when she said, read your morning pages. Because if you've done your pages every day, it's 153 pages. That's an entire novel. Ah, crap, I didn't do check-in again. Raises hand like Hermione. I practiced self-compassion this week. Yeah, you don't have to read all of them, even if it's just the morning pages from the last week or the last 2 weeks. But, I mean, she's gone through this book and really, like, the exercises themselves are helpful. So I think, I don't know. But, yeah, good you did your self-compassion this week. I hope that you still read some of your morning pages, Andra, because even, like I said, like, just a week or 2 weeks, that really helps you kind of see, like, okay, what's going on. And if you're anything like me, like the deeper that we get into this, it's almost like the more and more we like internally dig our heels in as far as these behaviors go or these patterns go. But because of that, there's more illumination to what's going on. So, at least for me, it was really helpful. And I think for a lot of people, it will be helpful. Sandra says, I noticed other things in my morning pages because I've been mentally reflecting on what I've been reflecting on. But I did find some interesting things. You're mentally reflecting on the things that you've been reflecting on. That's like an infinity mirror of the mind. It sounds like a deep, dark rabbit hole you could go down. And I also think that having that compassion on ourselves is a really good thing to interject when you're thinking on the things you've been thinking on. And sometimes we can just kind of chalk some stuff up to, this is unhelpful. Because I tend to like overthink things, and like I'll have to continuously remind myself, keep it simple. I get some interesting esoteric depths too. It sounds like I think philosophy is really interesting. So that kind of reminds me of like kind of the trail you're going down. So yeah, and it's good you're finding interesting things. I'm definitely like a lot of what I'm finding, like I've already known is there. And then another part of it, like, is stuff that
like I'm realizing that I've forgotten how to have fun with some things. So it's just kind of like this nice reminder to just kind of continuously bring you back up to what is a productive use of my time. Am I really doing it? Am I feeding into fears? Am I being compassionate with myself? It's Saunderson's very, very deep, dark. Insert dramatic hamster here, like a deep, dark, dramatic hamster wheel, just spinning, spinning, spinning. All right, well, try not to go there too much. You know, sometimes, like, it's easy to get down those roads of what went wrong and blah, 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 blah. But I think the purpose of, at least for me, like, if you get too far down, like, what's wrong, instead of focusing on, okay, like, this is what's happening, now how do we move forward, right? Like, if you're focused on what went wrong and you're just living there, like, that can be kind of damaging. So I'm hoping that we're not going too far in that damaging direction. But the mind is a very powerful tool and it can do a lot of things. So, yeah. Be kind of wary of where you choose to let your thoughts live, is a big lesson that I've been learning and trying to apply. Like today I woke up and I was kind of like, I just don't feel good. Like, I just didn't feel good inside. Like the things that have been happening, and you know, it's been a lot. So having that compassion and saying, you know, it's okay to sit back and meditate or take a minute and go take a walk, and just kind of reset. And I didn't end up doing that this morning, but I'm definitely going to do that after this. Kind of reset, detox, and be there for myself. So, did you do your artist date this week? I ended up doing some gardening. I bought some plants, and they've been in their little plastic container from the store so long that they were literally like bursting out with the roots. So I had to spend like a few hours really, like, I had to like cut the thing that they were planted in, and I had to like work with it to kind of break it up so I could replant it. So I did some gardening, and that was really cathartic. That was a nice time for me. I just did a few things that were just like, just stuff that was nice for me to do. So that was kind of my artist dates this week. Synchronicity, I've noticed a lot of, I got another graphic design job. Somebody was asking me to do graphics, but that's not really my jam. Do you do that? And so they referred me a graphic design job, which, you know, I'm open to art jobs. I work on the side to do my art. So after my main job, which pays my bills, because I'd rather rely on a steady gig than an inconsistent income to pay my bills, because I want to live comfortably. So I got a graphic design gig, so that was some synchronicity, because, you know, I'm always welcoming more money into my life. I started on a painting, and I probably spent like a half an hour painting on it, and it was pretty well received by everybody. My mom was even like, "You just should be done how it is." And I'm like, "No, it's not done yet." But that encouraged me to kind of keep it simple, and because it's So anyway, synchronicity, just some really nice things going on, as well as continuing to have conversations about the things that are going on with people, and finding support, and looking to share knowledge and show support for others. So there's a lot of like connectedness going on right now. As far as any other weeks significant in my recovery, you know, just
nothing else really. But if you guys have anything to share, feel free. It sounds like you did a lot of stuff this week, Sandra. So you should be proud of yourself for doing all that. And I hope that you, this will serve as your check-in here, Sandra. I know you said that you didn't do your check-in, but this is your check-in. So don't worry about that. Don't hold that over your head. So I'm glad you're here and you made it. If there's anything that you'd like to add, of course, as always, continue to do that. This week, again, is recovering a sense of self-protection. I feel like the light is like pretty harsh, glary. There we go. Excuse me. Recovering a sense of self-protection. So that's on page 163. So this week we explore the perils that can ambush us on our creative path. Because creativity is a spiritual issue, many of the perils are spiritual perils. In the essay task and exercises of this week, we search out the toxic patterns that we cling to that block our creative flow. Again, this is just building on everything that we've been through throughout these 12 weeks. Like, if you really think back to the beginning of this, we've excavated a lot. We've learned a lot about ourselves. So Sandra says, I really liked number 2, the describing your ideal life from last week. Yeah, it's really fun to let yourself imagine, what is it that I want to do? And if you're anything like me, you'll just kind of realize, like, I really can do a lot for myself right here and right now. I don't have to wait to have the finances to do this. I don't have to wait for this or that or the other thing. Like, a lot of my stuff was, I want to make art every day, and I want to this or that or the other thing. I can do a lot of the stuff that I want to do right now. A lot of it, like, my goals have been changing over the years. And you can set goals for yourself too. Like, what was it last? I did an art installation, and that was kind of a big goal for me. I did like an entire room. So yeah, the goals are really fun because you can set stuff that's out, and then like, a lot of times, like, I'll meet a goal, and then I won't realize until like a month later, I'm like, holy shit, I just met this goal that I set for myself like 6 months ago. I was like, this is awesome. Or like, even one time I set a goal for myself, and 3 weeks later I had done it. And it seems so big, but then you put it out there into the universe, and then it gets brought to you. And just like we're learning with all this stuff in here, is you block yourself so many times. So many times you say you want to do something, and then somebody comes up, and with that synchronicity, somebody comes up and says, hey, I have this opportunity. Would you like to talk to this person? And how many times I have been like, oh yeah, well, I'll get back to you later, because my friend, she wants me to do this painting for her, and I have this graphic design project. So I was like, hey, I'll do this graphic design project, and then I'll get back to you. So that means that today I have to call her or reach out to her and be like, hey, this is what I need to do it. But, I find myself just not doing stuff. And it's like, when we're writing our goals out, we can keep that momentum up, and then it starts coming to us, and then we recognize it. It's really cool. So, yeah, lots of cool stuff. I'm just going off on tangents. I'm pretty good at blabbing, I guess. All right, so dangers on the trail. Danger, Will Robinson. Little Lost in Space quote for you. Creativity is the universe's energy flowing through us, shaped by us, like light flowing through a crystal prism. And y'all have seen that Pink Floyd album, when a light goes through a prism, it comes out a rainbow on the other side, right? So you are like the vessel that amplifies that energy and puts it out into the world so that it can be visible. Very cool. When we are clear about who we are and what we are doing, just like in number 2, Zandra, with the setting our goals,
When we are clear about who we are and what we are doing, the energy flows freely and we experience no strain. When we resist what that energy might show us, like me not following up on jobs that I said that I wanted to do, which I do follow up on stuff, but I find myself delaying myself for periods of time that like make no sense. Like, because what, I want to do the dishes before I call somebody about them wanting to give me money. Like, what? So anyway, when we resist what the energy might show us or where it might take us, we often experience a shaky, out of control feeling. Let me read that again. When we resist what that energy might show us or where it might take us, we often experience a shaky, out of control feeling. If you allow yourself to be excited about an opportunity instead of fearful about the things you need to troubleshoot and problem solve, you can really, really stop your flow and your momentum. Every creative person has a myriad of ways to block creativity. Each of us favors one or two ways particularly toxic to us because they block us so effectively. So I'm going to read this little quote over here on the side. Oh wait, no, I'll read that after. For many of us, work is the block of choice. Busy, busy, busy. They grab for tasks to numb themselves with. They can't take a half-hour walk. What a waste of time. Must-dos and multiple projects are drawn to them like flies to a soda can in the sun. Oh, I feel attacked. Reaching for the painful thought, they become instant victims rather than feel their own considerable power. If only he or she would just love me. Reaching for the painful thought. Like thinking about all the problems that would need to be troubleshooted instead of being like, wow, look at this cool opportunity that I get to learn and grow with. The minute a creative thought raises its head, it is lopped off by the obsession, which blocks fear and prevents risk. Sex is a great block for many, or relationships. A mesmerizing, titillating, hypnotic interest slides novel, erotic possibilities in front of the real novel that you're supposed to be writing. The new sex object becomes the focus for creative approaches. It's like distraction, like such a typical ADHD sounding issue. Knowing yourself as an artist means acknowledging which of these you abuse when you want to block yourself. Want to block yourself. If creativity is like a burst of the universe's breath through the straw that is each of us, we pinch that straw whenever we pick up one of our blocks, meaning we shut off the flow. And we do it on purpose. If we are honest with ourselves, we all know which blocks are the toxic ones for us. Clue, this is the block that we defend as our right. If we are honest with ourselves, we all know which blocks are the toxic ones for us. All right, you guys, what are your blocks? You guys want to hear mine? I take on too many tasks at once. Go, 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 go. I lose interest because I try to overcomplicate the project and I don't finish it. When I'm feeling inspired to do something, this is why I'm always saying show up for yourselves, because I struggle with this. When I'm feeling inspired to create something and I'm like, I'll do it later. I'll do it tomorrow. I don't feel like it. Those are mine. Also, relationships. wanting to spend time with people is not necessarily bad, but the way that I wield that block is putting others before myself. So we all have our blocks. It's important to know what they are. Will we always be perfect even if we know them? No. Knowing is half the battle. The other half is actually changing the behavior. Using that energy and funneling it into our art rather than breaking it apart and defaulting to our addictions, such as workaholicism. Workaholicism? Is that one? Alcoholism? Things of that nature. I know it's kind of heavy shit, but I'm trying to share with you guys my stuff because, I just continuously bring back my focus. Let's actually work on this. Let's get this done. So it's a struggle for me too. So I'm trying to share that struggle that I have as an example that, I struggle too. It's doesn't have to be that way. But it is often. And sometimes it comes in droughts or famine, which will go on anyway. Which one makes you angry to even think about giving up? That explosive one is the one that has caused you the most derailment. Has food sabotaged me? Workaholism? Sex or love? Mix and match is a common recipe for using these blocks. You can have multiple blocks at a time that stop you in tandem, in what is that, tandem? At the same time. So we turn to our drug of choice to block our creativity whenever we experience the anxiety of our inner emptiness. And it is always fear. It's often disguised, but it's always there. And that's what leads us to grabbing for a block. Sandra says, my favorite block is needing more colors, needing more scents, needing more ideas. There's an artificial barrier to ever getting started because there is never enough to start. Right. Yeah. And that's so common, and you're not alone. The internet is my bane. Oh my gosh. Social media in so many ways, and the internet in so many ways. You can get in so many rabbit holes. Yeah, I feel that. Except this cast, this is centering. Well, thank you. I'm very glad. Yeah, because we're talking about things. This is a productive conversation. So I'm really happy that you feel that way and that you're enjoying it as well. It's centering for me too. Like I said, I don't know if you were tuned in, but at the beginning of this, I was talking about stuff going on, and I was like, I just don't feel good today. But it's like I show up and I do this because I've committed to do it. And I'm so happy that you continue to show up and do this because you've committed to it. Because building in this time for yourself and building in this time is a creative act in itself, because you're going to be introspective. As you said this week, you were very introspective. You were thinking about how you were feeling about feelings. You were thinking about how you've been feeling, or you've been reflecting on how you've been reflecting, etc. So, that's good. It's all very good. All has its place. I'm happy you're doing it with me. I don't know where I was. Oh, okay, we're over here. So, scooching on down the page here. We're at the bottom of page 165. If you're trying to follow along with me. I'm not reading the entire text. I'm just reading some things that were sticking out to me. Rather than paint, write, dance, audition, and see where it takes us, we pick up a block. Blocked. We know who and what we are. Unhappy people. Unblocked. We may be something much more threatening. happy. I traditionally find it hard to sit and rest and be. Because when you're sitting and resting, you can relax, you can enjoy stuff a little bit, and a lot of my conditioning was to work, sacrifice, serve. Your life isn't about you, your life is about other people. So for me, like my weekends were spent in servitude, all growing up. So I've had to learn how to give to myself, and I'm still learning that. And so learning to relax, especially in our culture right now, we have this culture of workaholic. You know, you go do this and you earn and you have to consume, and everybody wants something from you, and especially your job. Like, it's all about your value is determined by what it is you do, how much you earn. Your success is measured in dollars rather than happiness, and unlearning that, you know, depending on, I mean, there's so many different subcultures, but the main American thing anyway. Continuing on. As we become aware of our blocking devices, we can feel our U-turns as we make them. Have you noticed that? Because so I'm watching myself as I make choices to do it later. I'm watching myself as I make choices to fill my plate to a point to where no person who gets enough sleep could do all of that. And this week I've actually watched myself as I was like inclined to do those things. And I actually did a lot this week. You know, I finished a project, I started another one, I accepted another one, and I still took time for myself to relax. So, and that's all on top of working full time. So I still do more than your average bear, even though I'm like, oh, I should relax a little bit. Or, so then I would do the thing where like, oh, I relax too much. And then I feel guilty and then I bash my head over it, bash it over my head. And then I take on too much. And then I go for being so productive that I can't even rest. Right. So, there's that balance that I'm noticing that I'm finding. So I'm still working, but I'm doing things that I love. I'm making time to do the things that I love. It's still time consuming, but I'm also still taking that minute to feed myself, eat healthy, relax. Maybe, you slept in. That's okay if you slept in, balance, acceptance, being loving with yourself. Ooh, boy. So, and what can we do with anxiety? I know there's this undercurrent of emotions that can be a habit of thought. It can come with current events. It can come with changes in your life. But what do you do when that anxiety creeps in? How do you manage it? Do you stuff it and just hope it will go away? I know that's something that is pretty easy to do. Sometimes it can, whatever your default way of dealing with anxiety is, let's think about how we utilize that, because anxiety in itself, like, it feels like adrenaline, it feels like nervous energy, and you can kind of implode on yourself. So what do you do to be constructive with that? So Zandra says, commenting on my productivity seesaw, where I go hard one way and then I relax and don't do anything. And then I go hard one way and then I relax and I don't do anything. And then it's finding that balance in the middle, that productivity seesaw. I like that. I am on fire today. Oh, well, good. I'm glad that my Aries is showing. I am an Aries fire sign, so thank you. Cool. Burn, baby. I don't know what I'm talking about. But again, this anxious energy. You know, I mentioned in one of my previous live streams that, you know, I was going through a really hard time last year, and I'd be like, you know, my mom, I'd like reach out to her and she'd just be like, paint your feelings. You're an artist. Use that energy. Harness that energy. Paint your feelings. What is your creative outlet? Oh, speaking of which, Zandra, did you do your homework? Did you, last week I asked you if, to use my poetry writing method, where you just sit there and you just kind of write down how you're feeling, and then you kind of take the words and you look them up in a thesaurus, and then you look them up in a dictionary, and you kind of make sure that the word, you can find different words that rhyme that way. I'm just curious, not did you manage to carve out a moment to do that? Because I'm interested to see how it works for you, because that's actually that's something really fun that I enjoy doing. So hopefully you got a chance to do that. So again, my mom would tell me, you know, when I'm like anxious or upset or whatever, paint your feelings. And it doesn't even have to be the energy from anxiety. It can be the energy from, or the lack, like I'm sad and I just want to curl up into a ball. Well, if you can manage to get up and, you know, brush your teeth, like, okay, that's an accomplishment. So, you know, but even when I was sitting there, like, you know, crying about something, you know, sad, having my mom remind me, like, dude, paint your feelings. Like, that was a really cathartic outlet for me. And, yeah, so Zandra says she's always wanted to know an Aries. Well, girl, we met when did we meet? We didn't meet last summer. We met the summer before. I don't remember when we met, but you know an Aries now. Okay, so try to play with your creative outlet. Zandra says she did try it, yes, and it was quite successful. Thank you for the new tool. You're so welcome. I'm glad it worked for you. That makes me happy to hear. Well, this is fun. I don't know. I like reading, and I have a dictionary and a thesaurus app on my phone, and I use it all the time, even if it's not for that kind of stuff. So it's really good. Keep your vocabulary growing. Zandra said she also tried showing up to the canvas with her music, and it worked quite well. Perfect. Even if you showed up and you don't do anything, just carving that 5, 10, 20 minutes out, whatever it is, no matter how small. I'm so proud of you. You did good this week. See? You're doing good things. And we're holding each other accountable for the workbook by showing up together and having, it sounds like very productive discussions. So even if you just do one thing in the step in the right direction, that's a win. So I'm really happy for you. So there are no physical results yet, Zandra says, but I already feel the canvas approach working its magic. Yeah. So it was like that story I said, you know, I for those of you just tuning in, I wasn't able to produce any art for 2 years. And somebody that I looked up to as a mentor suggested that even though I wasn't able to paint or produce anything, that showing up and sitting at my canvas for an allotted amount of time, day after day after day, would yield results for me. And it's just like Zandra says with the showing up to the canvas, working its magic. It really does alter something inside of you where you can start. It's almost like you have that momentum of going in the wrong direction, or that momentum of not producing anything and feeling stagnant. And when you show up, it slowly stops that I don't have time dialogue. It slowly stops that I can't be creative dialogue, because you're sitting there and it's changing that dialogue into, what can I do? Look, I'm here. I can do something. Even if it's not perfect, I can do something. Perfect. Good job. Oh, here we go. Workaholism. I feel like there needs another sound in there, but it's an addiction. It blocks our creative energy. It could be argued that the desire to block the fierce flow of creative energy is an underlying reason for addiction. If people are too busy to write morning pages, or they're too busy to take an artist date, they're probably too busy to hear the voice of authentic creative urges. Are you too busy to show up for yourself? Or are you just saying that you're too busy to show up for yourself? I've been noticing week after week after week that my dialogue has changed from I'm too busy to the knowledge of I just didn't feel like showing up for myself, or I just didn't feel like it, or I'm just tired, or I just don't want to. But I think that I don't want to and that I don't feel like it is still a lie, because it's just fear talking. Like you need to perpetuate that dialogue of not good enough. So you're proving it to yourself by not showing up. And of course, this could all be subconscious, and this is all just me thinking about, what is it you said, Sandra? You're reflecting on how you're reflecting. So, food for thought. Interesting things to mull around. You know, can you be honest with yourself? Can you ask yourself that question? You know, why did I not do it when I knew that I would feel bad for not doing it? Oh, weird. Show up to that canvas. It's working its magic, Sandra says. Cool. So the truth is, we are very often working to avoid ourselves, our spouses, or our feelings. For most blocked creatives, fun is something they avoid almost as assiduously as their creativity. And why is that? Fun leads to creativity. It leads to rebellion. It leads to feeling our own power. And that is scary. So let's take a workaholic quiz. A workaholism quiz. I'm just going to read the ones that I underlined for myself. There's a list of like 20 questions you can ask for yourself. Let's play 20 questions, except for I'm going to only read you the ones that I underlined. These are my personal ones. So again, if you're following along with this, I do encourage you to purchase this book. Go look for Julia Cameron's website. Buy it directly from her. Don't buy it from Amazon. Don't buy it from a bookstore. Cut out that middleman. Give the author the money that she earned writing this book. If you can, always buy direct from the creator. They will get more of the proceeds. And don't you want the person that earned it to get the money? So there's my plug. Buy the book, because I'm only reading you parts of it. My intimates complain that I always work. Ooh, guilty. Of course, I don't have one right now, but when I did, you're always working. Why don't we relax? Come on, come to this barbecue. Oh, I can't, I have work. Come to the barbecue. I can't, I have work. Come for the weekend away with me. I can't, I have work. So, you know, what's your vice? And how are you gonna, you know, be honest with yourself about that, right? Like, so these are things that I have done. Obviously, like, you know, we all grow and we all expand. And for me, I'm always trying to do that. So, I try to do two things at once. Guilty. I allow myself free time between projects. No, I don't. I allow myself to achieve closure on tasks. Sometimes. I strive to do that. But what is it you said, Sandra, earlier is I don't have enough sense. I don't have enough this, or I don't have enough that. So your reasons for not starting a project, Sandra, are often my reasons for not completing a project. Like, I will be like, oh, well, now I want to go back and redo the whole thing because blah, 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 blah. Ugh. Such a pain. All right. I procrastinate in finishing up those last loose ends. Boom. No closure. Procrastinate in finishing. God, that freaking painting. God, it took me 2 weeks to finish painting. Like, just to sit down and finish painting something. Lame up. I prioritize my day to include an hour of creative work or play. Sometimes I like to do that whole, like, oh my God, I have the entire day to paint. This is awesome. And then I'll spend like 4 to 7 hours painting or something. So like really that daily practice, I'm kind of hit or miss. I'll go through chunks of doing it and then boom, I'll fall off. And then I'm like, oh, wait. I was doing this every day. Why did I stop? I don't remember. So just bringing that back. Are you a workaholic? Do any of these make sense to you? I allow myself downtime to do nothing. Like I said, getting better. Going somewhere, even to dinner with a notebook or my work numbers is something I do. Okay, well also I go out to dinner by myself and stuff, and I go to the park by myself, so I bring my work with me because I'm still going out and doing things, but I'm still working. Zandra, oh my God, I do that too. Finally get something down, and then I'm like, no, not good enough. Yeah, like, finish it. What is it we said earlier? Done is better than what? None. Done is better than none. Complete those projects, move on. Every project I complete, I learn from. Every project I complete, I grow from. And just, if I can keep that reminder, it really helps me. Oh, I wrote something on above my art easel, and it says, oops, poop shot. It says, I now treat myself and my creativity more gently. So that's what I wrote on my above my art easel is I now treat myself and my creativity more gently. So not good enough should go out of our vocabulary for sure. I have these reusable flexible straws. They're silicone and they open up so you can wash the inside. And then they kind of like zip back together, and they're really cool. I got these at Fred Meyer, and they were like $8 for like 3 of them, and they're awesome. They look like don't be a pervert. All right. In order to recover our creativity, we must learn to see workaholism as a block instead of as a building block. Work abuse creates in our artist a Cinderella complex. We are always dreaming of the ball and always experiencing the ball and chain. There is a goal. There is a difference between zestful work toward a cherished goal and workaholism. The difference lies in the hours than it does in the emotional quality of the hours spent. So is your goal to put in the hours, or is your goal to enjoy the hours you put in? We depend on our addiction and we resent it. Work is for a workaholic, work is synonymous with worth. It can be helpful to keep a daily checklist and record how we spend our time. Yeah, those straws are like my favorite. An alcoholic gets sober by abstaining from alcohol. But how can you tell if a workaholic is sober from, do you just not work? And she goes on to address this. A workaholic gets sober by abstaining from overwork. The trick is to define what exactly it is that overwork is. So we all will often lie to ourselves, bargaining to hold on to those abusive behaviors that still serve us. Again, like Cinderella complex. Exactly. Do the dishes, do the laundry. Cinderella, Cinderella, night and day, it's Cinderella. You know that one? Can you sing it with me? Oh no, this is just Sari's karaoke by herself. All right. Mm-hmm. So set a bottom line, specifically mention which behaviors are known to be off limits, right? Like working past 8 p.m. and not taking an hour for yourself to have some downtime before you go to bed, or, what is it that defines too much work for you? Like, when you get too exhausted and you can't go on, when you're burning the candle at both ends. Depending on where you are in relation to your recovery from overwork anyway. But the point of this is to figure out and to pinpoint what that is, so that we can know when we are being workaholics and when we're crossing the boundaries that we set for ourselves. So you have the time and you're misspending it. Your time log will help you find that those areas where you need to create boundaries. So bottom line, I will not work past blank. Bottom line, I will take one day off to myself. Bottom line, I will not be mad if I sleep in. Bottom line, I sleep in on the weekend, right? Like, one very simple but effective way to check your own recovery process is to put a sign in your work area. Workaholism is a block, not a building block. Alternatively, you could put a sign in your work area that specifically lists what your boundary is. Yeah. All right. Over here on the sidebar, we've got a little quote from Plato. Not Play-Doh, but Plato. The life which is not examined is not worth living. Because then what are you? You're a sheep. Just following along, doing what you're told. All right, drought. In any creative life, there are dry seasons. Life loses its sweetness and our work feels mechanical, empty, and forced. These are the times when the morning pages are most difficult, but they're also the most valuable. What do? We stumble on. How do we do that? We stay on our morning pages. For all creative beings, the morning pages are the lifeline. The trail we explore, and the trail home to ourselves. I also want to add, if you've ever been in therapy and they've told you to journal, it's because it's helpful. Helps me like organize my thoughts. It helps me realize, also like it helps you realize when you're if there are situations in which like, you know, people aren't treating you right, especially if you're not treating yourself right. Morning pages are really helpful, especially if they go along with like a book like this, to where we're being guided as we go. So it's always really helpful to have some type of book to be reading that's like educational. Tangent done. So anyway, so again, like if you're at a point where your creativity is just feeling like really blocked up, you know, we're calling this a drought here. This is a creative drought. It's really important to stay on those morning pages. Basically, when you're in that drought, you're fighting against the universe, because the universe like wants to flow through you and be creative. And like it's like for me, like when I'm like, oh, I have like this really cool inspiration to do something, and I say, oh, I'm going to do it later. Like in that moment, like going through this book so recently now, like now I've caught myself doing that on like several occasions, and I'm just like eye rolling myself, because I'm like, that's just an excuse. Like I have this idea, and then when you like stop yourself from doing that, like that can be like a really big way for this to onset. Zondra says, I think it is the same book. Wait, Zondra says, I think it was this same book that inverted that quote and said, a life not lived is not worth examining, which was pretty potent for me. Right? Yeah, so it's applicable both ways. So a life not lived is not worth examining. Interesting. And a life not or a life, let's see, it was Plato says, the life which is not examined is not worth living. So back to the drought. Let's see. The drought is the desert of the heart. Looking for a hopeful sign, all we see are the hulking remains of dreams that died along the path. It comes to my mind the elephant graveyard in the Lion King cartoon back in the day. What is it? The 90s it came out. The elephant graveyard. Those are dreams that died. But if you keep writing your morning pages, A drought is a tearless time of grief. We are between dreams. Again, showing up at that canvas, like you said, Sandra, showing up to that canvas, it does some kind of magic in you. Like just showing up to those pages and just getting it out there. Droughts do end. Droughts end because we've kept writing our pages. We've doubted, yes. We've stumbled on. A path will emerge. So we got another quote over here. Truly, it is in the darkness that one finds the light. So when we are in sorrow, then this light is nearest to all of us. So truly, it is in the darkness that one finds the light. So when we are in sorrow, then this light is nearest of all to us. It's just like when I'm at 99% of a project and I quit because I don't want to put the finishing touch on it, or I think it's not good enough. It's like, dude, just finish it. You're like right there. Turn that damn light on. Sandra says the elephant graveyard of creation. Word. All right. Let's talk about the zest of fame. Sandra says she'll be doing morning pages the rest of her life. You know, I think that would be a productive thing to do. So fame. Oof, this this hits with me. Fame is not the same as success. And in our true souls, we know that. We know and have felt success at the end of the day is good work. But fame, it's addictive and it always leaves us hungry. Fame and the desire to attain it, the desire to hold on to it, can produce a how am I doing syndrome. This question is not, is the work going well? The question is, how does it look to them? Those guys. The point of the work is the work. That's why I come back to my goal is to just create daily, right? Like to do that. Like that's why I'm doing this. That's the whole reason why I'm doing this, so I can create every day. The point isn't the fame. Instead of writing being about writing, it becomes about being recognized, not just published. Focusing on fame, whether we are getting enough, creates a continual feeling of lack. There is never enough of the fame drug. Wanting more will always snap at our heels, discredit our accomplishments, erode our joy at another's accomplishment. Okay, I have something to interject here. In January, I worked all month on this huge art installation. It was the biggest art installation I've ever done. January of this year. It was released one day only on February 8th. It was for an event company that I work with. And I was so elated with it all coming together. It was a one-day event. It was very well received. I was very proud of myself. I did a lot of new things in that project. I had assistants for the first time, and not just like one or two. Like I had like 10 assistants over the course of like 2 days helping me button up the whole thing. I had an entire room that was just all my art, my inspiration. It was my first UV painting. I hand sewed a giant mural. I did all this stuff. A whole bunch of firsts for me, knocked it out of the park. It was amazing. I was really proud of it. But God, the night of the event and like the next day was awesome. And then like the entire like next 2 weeks, I fell into like this weird like feeling of depression, right? Because like after you get that high, then the aftermath just seems so boring and so dull and I know that I'm not famous from that, but the attention that I received from that, from the people around me and at the event, and the pride I had in myself for doing that, there was like a hangover. And it was like, I kept reminding myself, I'm like, this is just a hangover from doing this massive art project. And also like I was working 8 hours a day and then going home and like working another 8 hours on this project for like a month. So then there's like this emptiness, right? So fame, back to this fame, where was this? Focusing on fame, on whether we are getting enough, creates a continual feeling of lack. There is never enough of the fame drug. Wanting more will always snap at our heels, discredit our accomplishments, erode our joy at another's accomplishment. So there's that like rush of dopamine that you get from all that stuff. And you need to be really mindful that when you're like creating something and doing something, it can be addictive. And this is really hitting home with me because I was doing like events like every week. And now with the quarantine, like I'm not doing events every week. I'm not vending at festivals. I'm not having these people come and tell me that they love my art every day in person. You know, I'm not doing those things. And you need to be able to be grounded enough in yourself to realize, oh my God, this is what's going on. Yeah. So as Andra says, fame is a sort of power drunk, right? Like, so, teaching the workshops, my painting workshops and all of that. Like, yes, I'm good at what I do, but am I dependent on the people who receive it? And why is it that I'm doing this? Again, why is it that I'm doing this? Is this a joy of creating? And you need to, it's really important to really understand the why of what you're doing, and to realize, yes, it's awesome to get this recognition, but don't forget, this is why I'm doing this, right? Like, I've been through several cycles of this where I'm like, okay, I'm no longer doing this to create cool art. I'm doing this because I want the money to come in. I'm not doing this to create cool art. I'm doing this because I want that recognition. I'm not doing this. And so then those things become creative blocks for me. And it's interesting to see these things, how they automatically come and become blocks, and you still have to be mindful of, like, okay, this is what's going on. Zandra says, when you are famous, you exude influence, aka power, over other people. Right. Well, maybe not exude, but you have, whether you know it or not. So yeah. Anyway, fame. Big. Zandra says, not to ruin this, but everyone has a mini Trump hidden somewhere. He might only be a 1/4 inch tall, but he's there. That, if you're talking about self-centeredness, I'll agree with you. But if you're talking about racist psychopath, then I'm not going to agree with you. Anyway.
To find the answer, we have to go even deeper.
So anyway, so there's the fame thing. So there's a little quote over here. She says, Zandra says, just don't let that internal self-centered person become a loudmouth, right? Yeah, I mean, I think that's all part of being human, is that everybody has that I'm the center of the world thing, but people need to, but I mean, like, depending on where you are, like, you either feed that or you don't. It's like that story of, there's a story about a grandfather talking to his child or his grandson, and he tells the boy, oh God, it's, you either are acting on love or fear, or you have two wolves inside of you. One is love and one is fear. And the little boy, and they're fighting. And the little boy says, well, who wins? And the man says, or the grandfather says, whichever one you feed. Yeah, Zandra's talking about the self-centeredness. She's talking about that, me, everything's about me, right? So Zandra's saying not the racist psychopath part. Yeah, so again, it's just like that story with the wolves. Everybody has two wolves inside, there's love and there's fear. And the little boy says, which one won? And they're fighting, which one wins? And the grandfather says, whichever one you feed. And that's really important, because it's just like Harry Potter, right? Okay, and again, aside from the political things that J.K. Rowling has just said, let's focus on, what is it? Oh, Dumbledore. Was it Dumbledore who was like, not everybody's Death Eaters and good people. It's whatever you act on, right? It's whatever you act on that makes you who you are. So your actions, not your thoughts, define you. Now we're going off onto tangents. Let's bring it back. Let's bring it back. This is about fame and not letting the power of fame control you. So we got a little quote over here, and it says, real learning comes about When the competitive spirit has
This summer,
ceased.
make healthy, restful sleep a priority with a new Tempur-Pedic mattress.
AKA stop making everything about you. All right, so when you've been toxified by the fame drug, you need to detox by coddling yourself. What's in order here is a great deal of gentleness and some behavior that makes you like yourself. Sending postcards is a great trick. Mail one to yourself that says you're doing great. It's very nice to get fan letters from ourselves. So yeah, so again, like just back to February after my art installation debuted, you know, like I said, I fell into like that weird depression and I had to coddle myself. I had to talk myself through that. Self-parenting, right? So it's like, you know, you just did that. You had that huge rush of dopamine from everything. This was a great accomplishment for yourself. Let's just keep reliving it and relishing it, and be proud of yourself. And so redirecting your focus into a positive thing, coddling yourself. You know, I sat around and I watched movies and I relaxed. And anytime I started to feel sad about not having that project or the project was over or whatever, then I just reminded myself, hey, I did a great job, you know, all this stuff. So coddling yourself, you know, being that support for yourself, not relying on other people to support us, supporting ourselves. Fame is really a shortcut for self-approval. If you don't approve of yourself and someone else does, that makes you feel good, right? Until they stop paying attention to you. So try approving of yourself just as you are and spoil yourself rotten with small kids' pleasures. Like when I went to the grocery store, I bought myself gluten-free cupcakes because guess what? I'm not going to make them, but somebody else did. And yeah, they're hella expensive, but sometimes I want some goddamn gluten-free cupcakes. So that was a small pleasure, you know, always having like a piece of dark chocolate in the house or like a bottle of wine or, you know, going out and drinking my coffee in my garden. Small pleasures. When the fame drug hits, pick up your tools of your work and begin to do just a little creative play. The only cure for the fame drug is creative endeavor. Only when we are being joyfully creative can we release the obsession of others and how they are doing. Competition, which brings us to our next point. So the only cure for the fame drug is a creative endeavor. Only when we are being joyfully creative can we release the obsession with others and how they are doing. My big problem with competition is social media. How often are others posting about their art? How often are others producing their art? Why am I not producing as much? Why am I slower at certain things? Why am I faster at certain things, right? So competition, like, I'm better than you, you're better than me, oh, woe is me. No. Compete with yourself. Where was I yesterday? Am I at least on par with that? Am I doing better? What am I doing to improve myself? Don't worry about other people. So turn on your social media. You pick up a magazine, you know. Somebody you know has gone further, faster towards your dream. Instead of saying, this proves it can be done, your fear will say, oh, now they're going to exceed and I won't. Or succeed and I won't. So when we focus on competition, we tend to poison our own well. We impede our own progress. We say, why not? Why can't I? Blah, 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 whatever. Like, just start whining about it, right? Oops. When we are ogling the accomplishments of others, we take our eye away from our own through line. We ask ourselves the wrong questions, and these wrong questions give us the wrong answers. It's just like keeping up with the creative Joneses. They got a bigger boat next door. Wah, wah, wah. Or they have a boat and I don't. Instead of whining about what they have and you don't, take small steps toward it. Why did he get his movie out before I got mine out? What's the use? What do I have to offer? We often ask these questions. We try to talk ourselves out of creating. Questions like these allow us to ignore more useful questions. Did I work on my play today? Did I make the deadline to mail it off where it needed to go? Have I done my networking on its behalf? No wonder so many of us use social media or magazines or blogs, and we use them to wallow in a lot of unhealthy envy. We make excuses for our avoidance, excuses focused on others. Somebody else has said it, done it, thought it, and better too. Who am I? How could I ever compete with that? Besides, they have connections, a rich father. They didn't earn it. Blah, 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 blah. So unproductive. So creative blockage. Competition is really at the root of it. As artists, we have to go within. We have to attend to what is our inner guidance. What is nudging us forward? Is it because we love to create? Or is it because we just want to sit there and be jealous of somebody else so that we have an excuse because we'll never be good enough? Which is a lie. We can't afford to think this way. You can't let the desire to be better than someone else choke off the simple desire just to be. So, what this thinking does is it leads us away from our own voices and choices and turns it into a defensive game that centers outside of ourselves and our sphere of influence. It asks us to define our own creativity in terms of someone else's. Now I'm going to step off here. I'm going to go on a little quote. You've all heard that quote. Comparison is the thief of joy. And this is the reason why a lot of times I don't finish projects, because I'm like, not necessarily comparison, but like, oh, it's not good enough, right? And then like, if you see somebody else's, you're like, well, maybe theirs is cooler than mine, or they did it different than mine, but you're using your tools in your own way, right? And if you're creating something that's different than somebody else's, that's actually a good thing. Because I'll get caught in that trap a lot, where I'm like, maybe not as much as I did before, because I've been working on reminding myself as part of my own way to get out of my creative block is my art isn't like theirs. Oh, I should work on this because theirs is better. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, well, I should work on this because I'd like to be at that level is productive. Whereas I'm not going to finish this because I'm not at that level is destructive. Or, wow, look at their art. They're not even that great. That's an excuse. Or, wow, look at their art. I could never be that. Also an excuse. Also not healthy. So anyway, comparison is the thief of joy. So what should we do then? Let us concern ourselves first and foremost with what it is within us that is struggling to be born. When we compete with others, when we focus our creative concerns on the marketplace, we are really jostling with others, artists, in a creative foot race. This is a sprint mentality. The foot race mentality is always the ego's demand to be not just good, but also first and the best. Ooh. It is the ego's demand that our work be totally original, as if such a thing were possible. All work is influenced by other work. All people are influenced by other people. No man is an island, and no piece of art is a continent unto itself. It is the accurate mapping out of our own creative interests that invites the term original. We are the origin of our art, its homeland. Viewed this way, originality is the process of remaining true to ourselves. The spirit of competition urges us to quickly winnow out whatever doesn't seem like a winning idea. This can be very dangerous, and it can interfere with our ability to carry a project to term. Oh, yes, what I was just talking about. Just finish your projects. Enjoy it. Never ever judge a fledgling piece of work too quickly. Be willing to paint or write badly while your ego yelps in resistance. Your bad writing may be the syntactical breakdown necessary for a shift in your style. Your lousy painting may be pointing you in a new direction. Art needs time to incubate, to sprawl a little, to be ungainly and misshapen, and finally emerge as itself. We don't need instant gratification or that addicted hit of an acknowledged win. We have to approve of ourselves. We have to show up for the work, and that's the win that matters. All done. Show up for yourself. So we get deeper and more defined into content that we've previously read. Like I said before, it's all building on each other, and it's all building on each other. And a lot of the themes are recurring in here, and but again, the whole theme of this book in itself is unblocking yourself and letting that creativity flow. So I want to thank you guys for joining me. Don't forget to do your tasks this week. Don't forget to do your morning pages. This is week 10, you guys, coming up. So we have near the end of this here. We're coming here to a close. We've got some tasks here. The tasks are actually getting bigger as far as like the content and the questions, but I've found that they're still manageable to do. You just show up at that canvas. Because what we only have 5 tasks here, whereas before we'd have like 10. So I think realistically, it's just a little bit more content for us to get through, but it's not necessarily that much harder. All right. What do you think, Sandra? Appreciate you showing up and being involved again. Appreciate you having some dialogue with me here and sharing your story with me and relating with me. So yeah, I appreciate it. As always, thank you for showing up. Yeah. You got it, dude, Sandra says. All right, you guys. Well, I am going to paint. I feel like decompressing and painting. So that's what I'm going to go and do. Make sure you do a little something creative and fun today. Sandra, again, I'm really glad that you enjoyed the exercises. And, you started it, Sandra said, because I showed up. Yes, of course. All right, my friends. Have a wonderful creative week. Keep those chins up. Reach out if you need anything. Don't forget to paint your feelings. All right, Sandra says have fun painting. She's going to do some yoga. Ooh, and you've inspired me to get some wine. I should do some yoga too. Like I said, I was feeling kind of like icky. Bye, Jeremy. Got him here on the tail end. All right, fellas. Have a happy week. Go. End my stream. Yes, I want to end it.